Hi Booktube, it's me, and this is going to be just a one-off. I'm going to call it the mid-April Goodwill book haul, because I do have books that I've bought which are separate. I have books that I've bought books that my husband has gifted me, but I have a giant stack here that is just from the Goodwill from going there with my mom when she was visiting, and I wanted to go through those just to do a haul video because I felt like it. And because tomorrow is the Friends of the Library sale, and I'm guessing that's going to be another haul video or two. So I wanted to break them up. I have free time right now. I'm taking the time. Let's work with it. On the top, I have Into the Beautiful North by Luis Alberto Urrea. I read The Hummingbird's Daughter. I have the follow-up, which is Something America, The Queen of America, I believe. And this is another book by him, but I really like The Hummingbird's Daughter. This is about 19-year-old Nayeli, who works at a taco shop in a remote Mexican village. Inspired by watching the classic movie The Magnificent Seven, Nayeli sets off with 3 friends on a rollicking journey into the U.S. to recruit 7 men, her own Siete Magnificos, to defend and repopulate her hometown. That sounds entertaining to me. And I know he writes well, so knowing he writes well followed by that's entertaining means I had to pick it up. I guess I'm gonna make a new stack. Up next is Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. I think I've seen this hauled by Sophie Carlin. Basically, I'm going to read part of the back to you here. At times stern, at other times patient, at times perceptive, at other times in a sad denial, Olive Kitteridge, a retired school teacher, deplores the changes in her little town of Crosby, Maine, and in the world at large, but she doesn't always recognize the changes in those around her. A lounge musician haunted by a past romance, a former student who has lost the will to live, Olive's own adult children who feel tyrannized by her irrational sensitivities, and her husband Henry, who finds his loyalty to his marriage both a blessing and a curse. That's enough to pull me in. It does have a blurb from O, the Oprah magazine, but please don't let that stop you. It is a winner of a Pulitzer Prize. That doesn't really do it for me either. Honestly, I just liked the blurb. I picked up, it's hard for me not to pick up things like this, Icelandic Folktales and Legends by Jacqueline Simpson. This is put out by the University of California Press, Berkeley. And quite frankly, I don't know a lot of Icelandic folktales or legends, and there is a crap ton of them in here, so I am really looking forward to reading them. Because anything to do with Iceland, I'm one of those people. And if you will separate from each other, thank you. I picked up Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. I read this when I was a teenager. I remember thinking it was awesome. I remember telling my sister-in-law that she had to read Haruki Murakami. And then I read East of the Sun, West of the Moon. Is that it? Is that what he wrote? What's the one? South of the Border, West of the Sun. East of the Sun, West of the Moon. I don't know where I got that from. And then I stopped reading Haruki Murakami because I think that's all my library had at the time. I don't really recall, but my sister-in-law continued to read him and has become a devout, obsessed Murakami fan, as some people are. I've heard many quibbles with his work as far as the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, so I'd like to reread this and see how I feel about it. Of course, it's inspired by a Beatles song, which is a really screwed up Beatles song about him setting the house on fire because she won't take him back or something. I forget the exact premise, but as I recall, everyone was like, really? That's what it's about? Yeah, that's really what it's about. And the main character is Naoko, which means I'm probably going to listen to Sun Airways while reading this because they have a song called Oh Naoko. anxious to see how I feel about it in my 30s, as I was like blown away as a teenager, but I have no recollection of it. Unlike other books that really stuck with me, like Lost Souls by Poppy Z. Bright, which stayed with me. And like even now I could tell you the plot, but I don't want to reread it because I don't want to tarnish that. I don't know how this one's going to fare in that terms because I don't remember it. I just remember really loving it and being like, everyone needs to read Haruki Murakami. That has since changed. Next up is Out by Natsuo Kurino, which is apparently a crime novel. Nothing in Japanese literature prepares us for the stark, tension-filled, plot-driven realism of Natsuko Kurino's award-winning literary mystery Out. The story of a brutal murder in the staid Tokyo suburbs as a young mother who works the night shift, makes boxed lunches, strangles her abusive husband, and then seeks the help of her coworker to dispose of the body and cover up the crime. So, this has popped up on Amazon for me several times because I've read a lot of Japanese horror. And I thought, well, here it is, used, so I may as well just grab it. And that's what I did. I will probably read it when my husband's home. I picked this one up merely because I've heard so bloody much about the Neapolitan novels, and it's Eleanor Ferrante's My Brilliant Friend. I'm not gonna lie to you, the cover turns me off completely. When I saw this cover, I was like, no, I don't think I need to read it. Ever. Ever. There's been so much buzz that I figured for the price it was, I would pick it up, and if I liked it, I would keep going, and if I didn't, no harm, no foul. The other thing is, I figured when I'm done with my books, if I'm not keeping them, they either go to a old folks home, if they're old folks home appropriate, which means they can't have they don't want hardcovers because it's too hard for them to deal with, and there are certain contents that I wouldn't feel comfortable giving to an old folks home. But if this is, I figured this might be something a really old lady would like, so if it doesn't work, that it'll go in that bag. I have a bag for the old folks home and a bag to take to buy the book, or half-price books to switch in, so because that is how I roll. Now, next up is called Do the Windows Open by Julie Hecht. It's a Penguin book, and okay, I have to read you the back of this because I looked at it and I was like, okay, do the windows open? That's curious. I want to read the back and see what it's about. And then the cover, I was like, oh look, it looks like kind of like where I live without mountains. Okay, so Do the Windows Open is a series of hilariously linked tales documenting the mania of the modern day in devastating detail. Tales that have had readers of the New Yorker laughing out loud for years. The beguiling and alienated narrator who finds nearly everything interesting and almost nothing clear has set herself the never-ending goal of photographing a world-renowned reproduction surgeon, Walden Pond, the ponds of Nantucket, and all the houses of Anne Sexton has ever lived in. On the way, she searches for organically grown vegetables, windows that open, and an endodontist who acts like a normal person. She sometimes compares herself unfavorably to Jacqueline Kennedy, Hillary Clinton, and Princess Diana. What emerges is a unique sensibility under siege. This is a remarkably original literary performance, one that speaks to anyone who looks for refuge in the laughter. That speaks to anyone looking for the refuge laughter offers from life in an absurd world. So, and it's small. It's only 212 pages. Like, I mean, come on. I picked up The Beautiful Bureaucrat by Helen Phillips, which was a New York Times Book Review Notable Book of the Year. It's by Picador, and I will read the back to you, because this was another one where the back just totally sucked me in. In a windowless building in a remote part of town, a newly employed young woman, Josephine, inputs an endless string of numbers into something known only as the database. As the days inch by and the files stack up, Josephine feels increasingly anxious in her surroundings. The office's scarred pinkish walls take on a living quality. The drone of the keyboard echoes eerily down the long halls. When one evening her husband Joseph disappears and then returns, offering no explanation as to his whereabouts, her creeping unease shifts decidedly to dread. Yep, that one's also pretty tiny, so I'm okay with that. We have Thomas Pynchon's Vineland, which deals with people post-hippie. It's a post-hippie book, and quite frankly, I'll read anything post-hippie. It's an American voice of the late 20th century. And it is a really old-school Penguin book, because it's one of the blue spined. I won't read you the back, because it's post-hippie. That's all you need to know. Go read it. I picked up Foxfire by Joyce Carol Oates. I think I've had this book like 8 or 9 times, which is, of course, about a girl gang and Legs, who is played by Angelina Jolie in the movie. And everybody's seen the movie. Everybody knows the premise. It's a coming of age for girls, Confessions of a Girl Gang. If you like Plath, if you like, if you've done The Bell Jar, if you've done Go Ask Alice, if you've done Prozac Nation, Girl Interrupted, stuff like that, that book is what you need next. Also, because this was there, and it's from the University of Chicago Press, Folktales of Israel. Because I picked up Icelandic folktales and legends, why wouldn't I pick up the Folktales of Israel? Clearly someone was getting rid of their textbooks and just didn't care. And I wouldn't mind knowing more about the Folktales of Israel, because I'm crazy like that. It hits to my anthropological heart just beams when I get to read stuff about old school folktales and history of different cultures. Who did this? This is edited by Dov Noy, translated by Jean Baharov, and the foreword by Richard M. Dorson. Super old school. I love it. Because I Have No Scruples, Invisible Monsters by Chuck Palahniuk. I've read a bunch of his stuff. I like Fight Club. I'm sorry if that offends you. I was okay with Choke. I have Lullaby and haven't read it. And now I have Invisible Monsters. I'm not sure if I'm still of the same mindset where Chuck Palahniuk is good. Because again, that happened in my early 20s. Late teens, early 20s. When I did the whole Palahniuk thing. So, we'll see. We'll see how that works. I got The Blue Jays Dance, A Birth Year by Louise Erdrich, because I will pick up anything by her that I don't have. This is an autobiography of the year she gave birth. And I've been wanting to read something by Sherman Alexie, and this was there, and this is the absolutely true diary of a part-time Indian. Sherman Alexie is actually from the Pacific Northwest, and actually an Indian, so I'm interested to see what he has to say. This book was written, when was this written? Where's the copyright? 2009, so it's not too old. There's art by Ellen Forney. It's got a lot of blurbs, an asinine amount of blurbs in the front, and it's about a guy on the res, so I'll probably really enjoy it. It's a National Book Award winner, a New York Times bestseller, and hey, if I really like it, I can keep going. It does seem to be a children's book, or a teenager's book, or a YA book. Yeah, best books for teens of the year. So I'm not gonna, like, if it's good as a kid's book, then I will try one of his adult books and see if they fare the same way. He is really popular, so I have to assume that there might be something there. However, the masses haven't always treated me right. Let's face it, the whole Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey phenomenons were not for me. So that is what I picked up at the Goodwill when I went there with my mom. I gotta get reading more though, because so far I've only finished 4 books. I have 2 more books on the go. Middlemarch is slowly happening because I have to have the right brain space, and when you take as much allergy medications as I currently am, it gets a little harder. That, and I bought another 6 new books plus a cookbook, and my husband sent me 3 gorgeous books that you are going to want to see in the next haul for the month of April. But yeah, probably not going to buy. No, I'm not even going to say it because it's May, it's my birthday month, and it's our anniversary month. There will be book buying in May. I think I just need to read more. However, I do read more when he's home because that is something that we like to do together as a couple, which may sound weird, but we like to get together and read for like an hour before bed. Just together, and when he's not here, it feels weird. Because I'm a sap. But that is my Goodwill haul for April. I hope you enjoyed this. Please comment if you've seen any of them or if you want to hear more about them. Bye.